And we're on. Stevie Shanks, thanks for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
Brian Hadley, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I've you've been on my radar for quite a while, lifting the stones, and I guess that's kind of like mainly what I knew about you. Can you talk about like what the stones are that you're lifting? Where do they like? What's the history of them? And
Yeah, stone lifting. I mean, everybody kind of thinks about strength now. Well, most people think about strength about going to the gym and you have a nice barbell with lovely knurling on it and nice balanced Lego plates and everything's nice and balanced, and you have plenty of chalk and guys that kind of fire you up and kind of motivate you to lift. But whenever before all that came along, I mean, if you go back maybe 400 years, they didn't have gymnasiums, they didn't have Lego plates, they didn't have all the stuff that we have now, they didn't have all the nutrition sort of thing. So guys in a village, they basically would have went out to a field, cut a big rock and said, here, I can pick that rock up higher than you. So, so that's kind of, that's because no matter how long ago it was, we're still humans. We still have that competitive nature. And I suppose that, young men in the village to see who's the strongest or who's strong enough to become a man would have went to the local they normally had them outside of church. So the guys would have went to church. After church, everybody was fired up. And because everybody went to church in those days, that's when everybody got together. So coming out of church, they'd have been all full of beans and they'd have been out and picked a big rock up, So that's kind of the very brief history of stone lifting. So I kind of got involved in it through my father. There's a set of stones in Scotland called the Dinnie Stones. They're named after a chap called Donald Dinnie. And around about the early 1800s, the mid 1800s, he was Scotland's sort of first sporting superstar, if you like, because he would have travelled the world, and went to Australia, America, come over here to Ireland, travelled all around Scotland, doing Highland Games and sort of feats of strength and doing like a strongman show. So him and his father, they were stonemasons. And part of what they did in the area he lived in, there was a bridge called the Petark Bridge, which is in sort of D-side in Scotland, which is, I suppose, the closest city is Aberdeen. And this big bridge obviously would have required pointing or maintenance over the years. And so they would have put scaffolding along the bridge, to fill in the concrete or whatever they had to do. And they used two big boulders with rings in them to tie the scaffolding to secure it. So they would have been working away on the scaffolding. But Donald Dinnie, being Donald Dinnie, he wanted to pick them up. Now, and I suppose in pounds, 321, 413 is the weight of the stones. So they're a big lump of stone, the pair of them. And he would have picked one up in each hand, in his own words, regularly would have picked one on each hand. And one market day, I carried them across the bridge, some 4 to 5 yards. So that's a hell of a feat. Now that was 1860, roughly, that he made that statement. And the stones sat there for years. And the first guy to take them on was a chap called Dave Prowse. I don't know if you remember Star Wars. Well, of course you remember Star Wars. He was Darth Vader. So he was, so he was British sort of, I think he was an Olympic lifter and a power lifter, so a big strong guy. And he lifted them in 1963, which is the year I was born. But he had to use hand straps. He couldn't hold on to them, and that's part of the challenge. I mean, it's a very sort of grip orientated challenge, to pick these boulders up because they're on rings, like I say, they're uneven weight. The ring on the little one is 9/16 of an inch diameter steel and 3/4 inch steel on the big one. And it's about a 5.5 inch internal diameter and about 4.5. It's kind of oval shaped in the small one. So on their different heights, you've got 20 inches in the front, sort of 17 inches, 18 inches on the back. So it's a really awkward pickup. It's not like a farmer's walk where you have two even weights at an even height. So you kind of, the best way is to straddle them. So many guys tried them for I had 100 years. And there was no recorded successful lifts of people lifting them without straps. So my dad got to hear about it, and my dad felt like me. He was like 11.5 stone, about 155, 160 pounds. So he wasn't a big man, but he was great at the one-arm deadlift. He had a British record at that. And he got to hear about this through a neighbour in a local news article. There was a challenge put out, to offer. I think it was offering £200, for anybody that could do this unassisted. So he got interested in it, and he made his own stones up, and he made training rings, which guys used these days to train for them. And the first time he tried it, he was successful in training. So it wasn't a massive deal for him, but it had been a massive deal for years. So he kind of thought he must have been missing something But he made an appointment. He went over in 1972, and he had a wee sneaky go on the Saturday night. He was supposed to do him on the Monday. He had a sneaky go on the Saturday just to see if there was something that was eluding him that he had missed in his training, his preparation. And he said he actually found him quite light, because he had been training up to 700. He'd been training up to 800 pounds. The Stones weigh 734 combined, so he had trained well above it. And when he came on the day, he actually found them quite comfortable. So he did it on the Monday officially, and that was the first official lift of the Stones in 1972. He noticed when he was training that when he picked him up and set him down, that the Stones would have moved position. So he thought, if I pick him up and exaggerate that movement and swing him forward, set him down, and repeat the motion, he said he thought he could probably cover the distance of 17 feet that way. So he did that. He went back in 1973 and became the first man to carry them across the bridge. Now, when you say lift him and set him down, it sounds like you're kind of lifting and swinging him. It doesn't sound like a very good way to do it. You would expect to pick him up and walk with him. But it would have equated to, I think, roughly 24, 25 reps with 734 pounds in your hands, so that's a lot of reps. I've done something similar since, and I kind of know how it feels. So that was done, and the first man to do it after that was Mark Felix. I'm sure you've heard of Mark, strongman competitor. Yeah. He was the world deadlift champion for a while. He's a British strongman competitor. I mean, he's got hands like shovels. He weighs, well, I think he's close to 300 pounds. He's a big, strong lad. And he was the first to do it after Dad, and that was 2014. Wow. And in terms of how many guys have lifted them without straps, I think we're in the region of 90 now, but that's only really since I've taken this on in 2016. Up to that point, I think there have been 50 men who were successful, to lift these things. So it's a tough challenge. So it is. Now, I kind of got interested in weightlifting coming up my 50th birthday, which would have been 2013. And I was more interested in bodybuilding and being in shape for my birthday. But the strength developed very quickly. And to cut a long story short, I managed to lift the Stones in 2015 myself. So we became the first father-son. And we took part in a documentary called Stoneland. On the strength of that, it was done by Terry Todd and Rogue Fitness. Terry Todd's from the Stark Center in Texas. And Rogue Fitness, we've all heard about them. They run the Arnolds and all that sort of stuff. So they invited Dad and I to take part in the Stoneland video. And I think that's hit 16 million views or something like that. So it's really put stone lifting back on the map again, So it's been a great thing to be part of. It has. So that's roughly the background to it. I mean, there are so many other stones to be lifted, natural stones in Scotland. In fact, natural stones all over the world. I know in America there's plenty. In Iceland you have the Husafell stone that guys want to lift. So stone lifting is it's really back on the map again and growing rapidly.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, one of the, not the first gym that I worked at as a trainer, but probably like the second or third one, we had stones in the gym to lift, and like awkward, just rocks dug up from somewhere, and I might have like arrows on it, so you like try to like point the arrow away from you, and then see what you can do, and so it kind of had like. That was about all the instructions you got. You just point that way and see what happens. And yeah, it's really cool and awkward because, like you were saying, like when you have like the barbell that's perfect, and those are only 100 years old. So you go back farther than that, and it's all just awkward lifting and and on the rings for the stones. Like it sounds like it's pretty thin, and I think you were doing like the hook grip.
Yeah, well, the grip that I use is one of kind of Dad developed. He calls it the thumb grip.
Thumb grip.
So I suppose a hook grip, you would kind of put your index and middle finger over your thumb on a bar. Because the rings are round, you're trying to basically straighten off the shape of the ring. So you use your thumb, so you kind of move it across one. I suppose that's the best I can describe it there. So you've got your ring finger and your middle finger covering your thumb. And I mean, we can both do it without those as well, but I just find that a much more comfortable way to do it, because when you use natural grip, it tears at your skin. It puts your fingers in a very awkward position. It's very, very uncomfortable. It is. I mean, Dad's grip was super strong. I mean, he could lift, I think it was 970 pounds was the best he done. You know, and it was his back gave out, not his grip. You know, I wouldn't be anywhere near as strong as that. But I really prefer the thumb grip, you know, because it gives you a good solid grip on the stones. Now that's ringed stones, obviously. You know, it is. I mean, you have so many other different types, like you say, just rocks. You know, and a good story about the Atlas stones that are around now. There's a stone in Scotland called the Inver stone, discovered like the Dinnie Stones by David Webster, he turns 90 this year, but he's been hugely involved in World's Strongest Man, the Arnolds, you know, Scottish strength history basically over the last, I don't know, probably about 70 odd years. He discovered a stone called the Inver stone. The Inver stone is egg-shaped. It's 265 pounds of granite, and so there's nothing to grip on it. You know, you just basically put your hands on it and grasp your forearms and lift it. And it was one of the old sort of manhood stones in Scotland where the challenge was to lift it off the ground and place it on a wall at waist height. And that was the manhood challenge. You got the feather in your cap if you were successful. From the Inver stone came the McGlashan stones, which were used in World's Strongest Man round about the time of Bill Kazmaier and John Paul Sigmarsson. And they had these McGlashan stones. They put them on their barrel at waist height to kind of simulate the Inver stone lift. And then from the McGlashan stones developed the Atlas stones, which we know now. You know, so all of that comes from like one little stone sits in the middle of a field in Scotland. You know, it's pretty cool history.
Yeah, that is really neat. And yeah, I've been, I guess, into it since I was a little kid, going out to the woods with my dad and going out by like we usually like walk along the creek bed or something like that, and just try to like pick up big rocks or logs and throw them, and just it's like such a like natural thing to do. I think when you're kind of like in the if you're inclined, I mean, maybe it's not super common, but I guess like the strength thing has been with me since I was a little kid. I was reading like the bodybuilding magazines from the time I was probably like 7 years old, like looking at these guys. I didn't realize they were all on steroids and all that. I didn't understand that at that age. I was just like, wow, look at these guys. And just, yeah, picking up the stones makes it, it's just like a really interesting, like natural thing. Like, can you, and easily like be competitive. And so when you lift them, like what do you work on now? Like, is there another set of stones that you haven't been able to lift yet that you have your eye on?
Well, I suppose my focus has really been on the Dinnie stones and ring type stones. You know, like my dad's stones are 800 pounds. I have my own ones from Scotland, which weigh about 600 that I used to play with, you know, when I'm in training. So that's really been my focus, you know, pretty much since I started training. And I've run an event called The Gathering, which I'll come back to The Gathering later on. And I kind of thought, I've done so much with the Dinnie stones now, you know, there's no point keep going back and lifting them again and again and again. You know, people get bored looking at you doing it. And at some point I'm going to hurt myself, I think, you know, because of the weight of them. And there's so many other different types of stone challenge out there, you know, like that Inver stone. I mean, I had to go at it once with no training, and I managed to break the ground with it. And the Scottish call that putting the wind under the stone. Because I suppose if you imagine again in your village, I mean, not everybody's as strong as Bill Kazmaier or Thor Bjornsson, you know, don't all have that super strength. You know, so if you expected everybody to kind of shoulder a 300-pound stone, it's not going to happen. So nobody's going to become a man. You know, they obviously allowed, you know, that the tradition was if you can break the ground with a heavy stone, then that gets you the feather in your cap and you go from boyhood into manhood, you know. But there are so many of those stones around Scotland. I mean, I think I'm aware of a dozen that I want to do, but my mate Martin Janksics, who studies this, said there's like 30, maybe 40. And then they're finding new ones all the time. And I'm researching stone lifting in Ireland because we're Celts as well as the Scots. And I know that Donald Dinnie would have come over to Ireland to compete against us and one thing and another. So I've got about 5 leagues of stones over here that I'm trying to track down. And I think maybe in the next month or so, I'll have at least 2 of them, I think. You know, and we'll take it from there. But with all of those stones in Scotland, I just want to work my way through those. And I have bought myself a set of really smooth Atlas stones so that I don't use tacky. I just use a bit of chalk and spit in my hands. You know, they range from, pounds, 265, I think is my heaviest one. and then 220s the next one down, and there's increments down to about, I think, £40 for the lightest stone. So I'm just using those for training, because I think if I can hold on to a super smooth, say, 220-pound stone, then a 220 granite stone with a lot of rough edges on it is going to be much easier for me to lift. It's going to dig into your forearms, and you're going to get a good purchase on it. So that's a new quest for me. And I'd also, I have a website where I've developed it on the Dinnie Stones. So I've kind of worked with the owners, and we've set in place a thing now where anybody wanting to lift the Dinnie Stones, they come to me through the website. I don't check that they're capable of it. I check that they have a history in lifting, because some guy coming in off the street with no experience in lifting weights and wanting to have a go at the Dinnie Stones, he's going to wreck himself. So we want to obviously protect lifters as well, and make sure that they know something about weightlifting. They've lifted a minimum of, might say, £660. If you've done that in a barbell, well then at least you're not going to break yourself going in to try and lift these big, massive ring stones. So we have that in place. Gives all the information about the stones, gives you access to them. They get a certificate if they're successful. I put them on the record of successful lifters. So we've managed to get all that together now to protect the stones, protect the lifters, and protect the history, because the history's there now, and we've got it all in the one place. And then I run an event. I mentioned the gathering. When we did Stoneland, there was 7. It was my dad, myself, and about 4 or 5 other lifters. Doug Crawford, Martin Janksix, David Webster was there, Jan Todd, who was the first lady to ever lift them. We were all in the one place, and it was lovely. All sort of experiencing our own stories and swapping, our experience of the stones. So I thought, wouldn't it be lovely if all the lifters who'd ever lifted them came together on one day with the stones and talked about it, or if they were still capable, had a wee pull at them, So in 2017, last year, I ran the Dinnie Stones gathering, and I think we had 32 previous lifters of the 50 that had done it. So it was an amazing day, and we had then some new lifters came along, and that was kind of a one-off, because I really wanted to do that for the lifters. But David Webster had always wanted to run a National Donald Dinnie Day. So I spoke to David afterwards, and I said, look, how do you fancy about combining my idea and your idea into one, and we get the Dinnie Stones featured, and we celebrate the life of Donald Dinnie? And David jumped at it. He thought it was a great idea. So we had the first Donald Dinnie Day in August this year, and we had guys from America, Australia, Europe. We had the first full lift by a lady. Jan Todd got a partial. There's a girl called Lee Holland Kane, came from Australia, and we've allowed ladies to use straps for now, because there has been no lady participation since 1979. So we wanted, obviously, we want to grow this, and we don't want the ladies to feel that's too big a challenge. We can't do it. But I think the minute one lady does it without straps, the floodgates will open. They already have. Lee's lift has went viral. So the whole gathering idea on the Donald Dinnie Day, on our first year, we've made history already. So I think going forward, the thing can only grow, So it's been fabulous. So,
yeah, that sounds really cool. So how, I guess it depends how tall you are, but you're not lifting them real high off the ground, or so for you it's like a 6-inch lift, or what?
Probably wouldn't either. I think when I stand up, even in the training or with the stones, I think I'm clearing the ground maybe by about 3 or 4 inches, possibly. Okay. My dad, I'm 5'8", and my dad was 5'11", so he was 3 inches taller than me, but a lot stronger as well. My shoulders get pulled down quite a lot, but my dad was able to stand, quite tall, because he was a lot stronger than me, and he was in his 30s. I'm in my 50s, But I think that the thing about it is, we have two grades of lift for the Dinnie Stones. We have what's called a partial lift, where we adopt the same principle as the traditional stone lifting. So if you get the wind under the stone, in other words, if the stone comes off the ground, both of them come off the ground, even if you're not locked out. That's a heck of a feat. So we award a partial lift, and if you're fully locked out and you hold the stones for a couple of seconds, well, that'll be recorded as a full lift. Guys can't use straps anymore, because guys should be strong enough to lift it, to meet the challenge. Ladies currently can use straps, and it's the same principles of wind under the stone or a full lift. But Lee has done it now, and I have another 4 ladies have contacted me who are currently training for the Stones. And there's one, Anika, she wants to do it without straps. So, and obviously Lee wants to come back next year and do it without straps. So it's massive. It is,
do you know Kirsten Moore?
I know Kirsten well. Yes,
Okay, yeah, she's who I was thinking of. If I don't know how close she would be, but I know she's a very strong woman. So I wondered if she might be.
She's a candidate. She contacted me last year. We've become friends now, so I've met her at a competition and whatnot recently. But she contacted me last year. She was interested in having a go. I've 2 sets of rings, training rings. The first set that I had made were the first set that we had made as a family were my dad's, and he gave those away about maybe 10, 15 years ago to some guys from Scotland. So I didn't have access to those. And when I did get access to them, it took me longer than I thought to get up to the weight. I kind of thought I'd lifted 770 on a bar and I thought I'll be okay, but the rings are a different game. So I had got my dad's weights back, and I'd got his rings back. So the guy, Tony, who had borrowed them off, said, well, to just send me the rings back, but you can keep the weights because I have plenty of plates here. So I used my dad's as a template and got another set made for myself. So Tony very, very kindly later on gave me my dad's rings back because he knew the significance and the history of them. So I have those now and I use those. So Kirsten was wanting to train for the Stones. So I sent my rings over to her to Scotland, and she trained for a number of weeks now. She has a bit to go yet, but she has the mental capacity and the tenacity and the strength, I think, of character to train and get there. So she's one of the ladies I would fancy for getting a successful lift. The thing about it is, Kirsten's obviously not very tall, but the thing about Stones is I have a friend, Brett Nichol. His 8-year-old kid is using training rings, and he just pulled 140 kilos, 280, 310 pounds.
Wow.
At 8 years of age, but he's using the rings and he's getting them off the ground, and he's obviously not very tall at that age. So I don't think your height matters, because it's proportionate to the length of your arms and whatnot. So even Kirsten not being very tall, and Lee wasn't very tall, and her mum's not very tall. I'm not very tall. But we can all get them off the ground. So I don't think the height's going to be a problem. It's just the grip strength for the guys, and really for the girls to train their legs and their backs and their technique to get them off the ground. But I think watch this space for Kirsten, yeah.
Yeah, I thought of her because she lives. I don't know how close she is to you, but it'd be somewhat close. And so the rings that you made to train with.
Yes.
You can put like barbell plates. You can use barbell plates.
Yes, you can. But my dad designed his in 1971. Now, at the time, we didn't have Olympic plates with a 2-inch hole. We had the 1-inch center. Mm-hmm. So all of his plates were 1-inch. So he had pins made, and he could screw the rings onto the top. So you basically screw the rings off, load the plates on, screw them back on again, and they're all the right height and the right thicknesses, etc. There's a guy, Killer Strength Scotland, now is making identical replicas with the 2-inch pin, so you can use modern Olympic weights on it. He actually made me a set of sleeves, so I can use my 1-inch plates, or I can double up and just put the sleeves on and use 2-inch plates to do it. So they're a great training tool because you can train your technique with very light weights. You can train your grip. You can train everything that you need to do in terms of strength and technique. So whenever you come to lift the Stones, when you take a hold of the rings, it's not going to be a surprise, and you're going to have nice position, nice technique, and hopefully you'll be successful. So Kirsten had a go at them last year, and she did come close. And her partner, James Fuller, who's from America, I'm not sure what part of the US that James comes from, but James had a go too, and he came very close. Okay, he's Maine, that's right, yes. So I think James will come back again and have another go.
Yeah, he'd be one I would think could do it. He's very strong and very knowledgeable. He was on the show. I'd like to have him on again. There was a lot of background noise, but he's been on my podcast before, and he's really brilliant with his training, and a lot of lifts that I think may be close to otherwise forgotten. He's very good at them, and his social media has a lot of that, and then he's would be strong candidate, I would think for sure.
Yeah.
So like, are some of the stones, I know the Dinnie Stones, you're just lifting them up like a short range deadlift. Or some of the stones you're looking at, are you trying to get them overhead? Or like, are there different challenges with different stones? Like you get this one to chest level, or you get this one to overhead, or?
I think I think you have 5 different phases of a natural stone lift. Obviously the ring stones, because they're so heavy, all you can do is pick them up and set them down. But if you take the Inver stone, for example, 265, the original challenge for that particular stone was to set it onto a wall at waist height. So I would see the 5 phases as breaking the ground. So put the wind under the stone, put the stone onto your lap, onto your knees. That's phase 2. Stand up with it would be phase 3. And I think phase 3 would be where that challenge, if you were going for the strict challenge, that's because when you have it stand up, you set it on the wall, and that's the challenge finished. But then guys being guys want to push it a bit further. And with my research on Irish stone lifting, they wanted to throw the stone off the back of their shoulder. So that would be phase 4. When you get stand up, then you obviously shoulder the stone. And then you have the monsters of this world who can press it overhead. There's a chap over here called Andrew Kearney. And you can see his video on YouTube of him pressing the Inver stone. And I mean, it's like picking up a rugby ball and just pressing it, like a soccer ball, pressing it over his head. It was so easy for him. Bill Kazmaier was the first to do it. He did it in 1979 with the Inver stone. And there's many guys have done it since, like Luke Reynolds from Australia. Guys like him that have all pressed it. So that's your 5 phases. Break the ground, under your knees, stand up, on the shoulder, and overhead. But for me, man, I'm only 155 pounds, so I'm not going to be pressing 265 pound stones. But if I can meet the challenge of that particular stone, for example, the Inver stones, put it on a wall at waist height. I want to go and do that. So that's my focus over maybe the next 2 years. Is that there's 12 stones I've identified, and I'll maybe go over and do 1 or 2 at a time and come back and then go and do the next 2. And I like to finish off with the Inver stone.
Yeah. Something you mentioned earlier, you said, how old are you now?
I'm 50. I just turned 55 last week.
So I'm 39. I'll be 40 in April.
Yeah.
And so part of what I'm thinking of is, I want to get stronger. I'm going for my Strong First Level 2 certification in April. It's the day on my birthday. I'm a Strong First Level 1 instructor now. I have been for over 3 years. So the next certification, I'm going to go do my Level 2.
Okay.
But part of what I'm thinking of is, and I'm doing it on my 40th birthday, which is an interesting thing. And like a lot of guys are declining at 40. So some of the people that I'm trying to study are people that hit 40 and they're still getting better. And it's like, what are you doing or not doing that allows you to get better without getting hurt?
Okay, well, I think in terms of being in your 40s, I think, if you're going to be an athlete like a soccer player or, like an American football player, I mean, I think agility and recovery, all of those things plays a big part in it. And for me, particularly now with the weight of the training I'm doing, I'm training really heavy. I build in proper recovery time. I wouldn't train 3-4 times a week, like younger guys can do. I train twice a week. And one session is particularly heavy, and a second session I would try and do supplement like stones, work up my way up through my own stones in the garage, which are nowhere near they wouldn't be anywhere near 700 pounds. I mean, I'm working up to maybe 220 with the stone, and maybe doing some trap bar deadlifts, ordinary deadlifts, things to strengthen my grip, but I never push myself. Well, I always push myself in training as hard as I can. I mean, I come off a training session and I'm busted. But I allow myself to recover from that and eat properly and try and sleep. But then I party as well, because I'm a musician, so I like to get the balance right. And I think that's one of the things when you get a bit older, you realize that there's more to life than just the gym or just being on the road with a band. There's family, there's friends, there's training, there's your music. I try and balance the whole lot together as much as I can, but definitely when you're over 40, recovery is a key part of your recovery. Nutrition is a key part of your training.
Do you do it all by feel, like just your intuition, or do you use any like something I heard a UFC fighter, and they check like their heart rate variability. And so if like wake up in the morning and his trainer will say like, okay, you've recovered 85%. So you're free to go hard. But
Okay.
if you wake up in the morning and your heart rate variability is not so good, then he's like, okay, today you need to back off, just put in some repetitions, but don't work too hard today. You need to recover better. And they have the numbers. They're
Yes.
reading numbers instead of going by feel. It's all strictly by the numbers.
Yeah.
So do you have anything like that, or are you just going by the way you feel?
I think for me, one of the things that I was determined to do, I mean, like I say, when I started training, it was about bodybuilding, and I mean, the guy who trained me at the start, Vinty Johnson, he was Mr. Northern Ireland bodybuilder. So he was a local champion 3 years in a row, and the year I started, he actually came second. So he's got a great track record, fantastic bodybuilder, really helped me grow muscle and size, and all of those things. I mean, I think I was 140 pounds, not even 140 pounds when I started. So I was able to put on a wee bit of bulk, a couple of stone. But in terms of working with him, he gave me he said about the protein shakes and the carbohydrate shakes and the diet and all of those things. And I did do that, and it worked for what I was trying to do at the time. But as soon as my mind switched to go on the natural stone lifting, I wanted to do it the same way as my dad did it. So I stopped all of the protein shakes. I stopped everything that would be like a dietary supplement. And I just ate the same way as my dad ate. I made sure I ate my breakfast, ate my lunch, ate my dinner, and have something before I go to bed. I eat properly and regularly. But I stopped all of the supplementary stuff, because when I look back on it, I want to look back and say that I did it naturally and the same way as dad did it. It's probably silly, because there's probably a lot of stuff I could take, even from the local, chemist or sort of health shop that would help me. But I kind of want to look back and do it the same way as dad did it, But when I look back in the Dinnies now, and I know that I trained the same way as dad did, and I trained with all the nutrition the same way as he did, I'm kind of proud of that, So, and I mean, but certainly anybody else doing it, I would say take the best nutrition advice you can get, because obviously people they don't have the same reason as me for doing it, to try and sort of replicate my dad's kind of story, and add a bit onto his story. So I would say take the best nutrition advice. If there's advice on the internet from good PTs, take it, because it's such a science now. If you watch, Thor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw and all those guys, I mean, they have everything down, and like I say, they have heart monitors on, and, they take their bloods, they do everything, by the science. I think you were saying about feel before. I always listen to my body, because I have had no injuries, thank God, so far. In this, I haven't hurt myself at all. But I warm up properly, and that was advice I got from Dad. When I get to my maximum weight, then I go back down to maybe about 50% of the maximum weight, and I just rep to failure. And that helps my grip and burns all the proper muscle groups out. And I do like supplementary exercises, but I mean, they say, what exercises do you do if you want to bench more? Just bench more. So there's that kind of principle that I use. I use the rings and a wee bit of supplementary stuff outside, like one-arm deadlifts and a hack lift, for driving power in the early days. But when I got closer to lifting the stones, I just trained on the rings, stood in that position every time I trained, and went as heavy as I could go, and then backed off and just burnt myself out with the drop sets.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. I do something pretty similar to that, and I've been keeping like with the deadlift. I've been working like on the Jefferson lift more, like the barbell between your legs, and been trying to like dial that in a little bit. And then I do the same thing. I kind of like warm up to like my max for that day, and then back off and get more reps in. And I like that way of training. It makes sense to me. And
yeah.
So is your dad still alive?
Yes, he's 83 and he trains 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, it's the lovely thing about this is not that he wasn't full of life, but it has really put a sparkle back in his eyes since I started, to doing the training. And my dad comes along to the gathering with me, and because he was the first, one of the founding fathers. I mean, all the new lifters want to meet him and stuff, and I mean, my dad's hands are still really super strong, and they can feel the power, and they really enjoyed sort of talking to him and asking his story and taking advice from him on grip and training and nutrition, all of those things, and Dad loves it. I mean, he loves being part of it all. And, I'm so pleased that he's around to see all this. It's been an amazing journey for the two of us.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. To see the history, respecting the history of it, and not just think, oh, he's an old guy. What's he know? There's new modern methods now that are better, but people, I think, that can understand that, maybe he's not outlifting the young guys now, that they know more. It's kind of like the same thing with martial arts. The 80-year-old guy, he's not kicking ass like he used to, but he knows more than those young guys. So he's not the athlete anymore, but he's still a valuable source of wisdom. And it's that's really cool that you have that. And
you were saying about martial arts there. My father is a second dan in Aikido.
Oh, cool.
And he was a police officer in his day, so he actually used Aikido. I mean, he had great hand strength, as you know, and Aikido was about bending wrists. So if he got a hold of your arm, but you were not getting away. I mean, they used to send my dad in to take out the big guy. And I think at his age, at 83, I mean, he still looks fresh. But I mean, I think if somebody was to make the mistake of thinking they could mug him, they would be in serious trouble. Because he still has all the skill that he ever had. He just maybe not as fast as he used to be. And he's definitely not as strong as he was, but he's still strong enough that it would be I mean, most guys can take their dad by the time they're 83. No chance. Absolutely no chance.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think probably because I think the UFC has done a lot of good, like to show like what really works in martial arts. But people, I think, can sometimes look at Aikido and think, well, that's not real. That's not going to look right. But at my jiu-jitsu class, I train like traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu. I've done Brazilian jiu-jitsu also. But the traditional class, some of our throws looked like Aikido throws.
Yes.
And so we're doing the wrist locks, and we're doing all that. And I think when, like, there were cops that liked the class, and I think like when you watch like the TV show Cops on TV, or you see like what cops are really doing, a lot of it is Aikido, because they want in Aikido, your opponent ends up face down with his arm twisted behind his back.
Yes.
So of course, a cop on the street, he's not going to do some throw and the guy goes flying and rolls out of it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's just like the way you practice. That's the way you show. That's a different thing. But that practical Aikido is they're face down, which is the safest way for them to be for you. So I think that's good that you mentioned that, because I think Aikido can be, I think a lot of people kind of laugh at it and dismiss it now when they're mistaken.
They obviously haven't had Nikio put on them. That was my dad's favorite. It kind of put your arm in like this kind of shape. And he would have used, he developed what he called practical Aikido for the police force, and it was for arrest techniques. And it's one thing having a guy on the ground, but you need to get him into the Land Rover or into the station. So he would have walked guys out in their tiptoes by putting this and pulling up, and the guy would have come up, and they would have come in like a lamb, and particularly with his power. I mean, they were never going to escape his grip, but I think the grip strength in association with the skill, it was deadly, absolutely deadly. It was, and I mean, I think the police over here still use it. He developed that in the 70s, and they still use it over here now, for arrest techniques. And because you're not hitting anybody, there's no physical violence as such. You're using the guy's power against them and kind of putting them into a lock, and then just take them in like a little lamb, set them down, put the cuffs on, see ya.
Yeah, that's really cool. My dad used to do that to me too, the wrist lock stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
and
remember. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. One of the cops at my jujitsu class, he used to do like undercover narcotics in the '80s, and he was a real super tough guy. But before he started jujitsu, he was more of like a taekwondo guy or something like that. So he would arrest people, and he's like, well, when it got to court, though, it didn't look good because he punched somebody in the nose. Their nose would be broke, their eyes would be all black. So
Uh-huh.
they get to court, and it doesn't look good. But
No.
in jiu-jitsu, you can hurt somebody just as bad. They get to court, and they look fine. They look like
Yeah.
nothing happened, but really, yeah, yeah. So having that's really cool that he did that, and they're still using it, because it certainly is an effective way. And I think the UFC being as popular as it is, it showed a lot of like what is not effective.
Yes.
Effective ways to train, but then there's some misconception of like Aikido. Yeah, it's not going to look like the training hall when they're doing Aikido, where the guy flies perfectly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
those
Yeah.
techniques, they work. I mean,
Oh, they work, man, they do. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Steven Seagal. That was his main one. Was he was an Aikido advocate, and I mean, he looks great in his movies. But a lot of those moves, I recognize him from watching that over the years.
Mhm.
You know, and I can feel the pain in a lot of those. 'Cause he used to practice them on me when he came home.
Yeah,
So that's probably why I've got such strong wrists now. You know.
yeah. Steven Skull was one of my favorites. I always thought he had like really cool movies, and a lot of his moves looked like the stuff I would do at jiu-jitsu class and stuff my dad would do to me also. And my dad would take me to his movies when I was really young, go to
Yeah.
check them out. And um, yeah, that's really neat. So um, you mentioned like being a musician. Like, what kind of music are you playing? Are you playing like in bands and going out places? And like, what are you?
Yeah, goodness, I've been playing in bands now for, I think it must be about 36 years. I've been playing in bands. I'm a drummer. Play a wee bit of guitar as well, but mainly drums. For the last 26 years, I've been playing in a Queen tribute band. So we play all Queen Freddie Mercury music. Oh, it's been great. We've been all over the world with it, you know. So it's been quite successful because everybody loves Queen. I mean, I think Queen's probably one of the most popular bands who's ever been around, ever. You know, and next month, I think it is October, they're releasing the Queen movie. So we've been invited to perform at the premiere of that. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. You know, we've been across the Atlantic City and performed over there in one of the big Tropicana casinos and stuff. You know, so that's good because it gets you out and about a bit. You know, it does. But we mainly play in Ireland because, you know, when you get a bit older, you realise, you know, when you're a kid, you want to travel the world, you know, and play music all over the world. But then you realise that traveling to America means getting on a plane, getting all your equipment organised, getting met over there, and all the traveling, and then you get into the theatre, and it's exactly the same as a theatre at home. So if I give you a theatre that's like half an hour's drive from here, you know, it's still the same thing, and we get a great night, you know, with people who love Queen. Or you can travel for 9 hours to America and, you know, turn up and the equipment's wrong and everything's, you know. So we just keep it to Ireland and the UK now. But it's great fun. I absolutely love it. You know, and they're like my brothers, the guys in the band, you know, because we're more like a family now than, you know, just guys who play music together. You know, I mean, the music part was great, obviously, and you know, we put on a reasonably good show because we're 26 years on. You know, people are still coming to see us, so we must be doing something right. But the music's so good. I mean, it's Queen, you know, so it's great fun. And
Yeah.
I think we were talking earlier on there. You know, I think being a drummer and being a stone lifter, I think they go hand in hand because you need to be a wee bit crazy to do those. So I think that the drummer craziness kind of comes out of me when I'm faced with a big stone.
Yeah, yeah. You said something, I think, before we started recording about how you're 55, but you don't want to act like it, and like, I think that. So you want to just kind of like speak on that, like what do you think that does for you to like still
Yeah,
do
well,
these?
I think, I mean, my whole life, even when I was at school, and since I left school and up down to my 50s, I've always had something I wanted to do or be better at. You know, for example, with the band, you know, when you would play a theatre that you used to go and see bands in when you were a kid. So you have an ambition to play there. So when you do that, you know, well, do I just keep doing that, or do I stop, or what do I do? For me, when the very first show we did with the Queen show, it was in a local sort of hall here, a music hall, and I've been going there since I was a teenager, you know, watching all the bands who come across, and that was our first gig, and I'd always wanted to play there, you know, so our very first gig was like a lifetime ambition realised. So that kind of made me realise, you know, that, well, what do you do next then, you know? So I always want to take it to the next level. You know, if we play a theatre, doesn't matter what size it is, I want to do a bigger one. You know, I don't want to do it again and again and again. I want to keep taking the show up to the next level. And it's the same, I suppose, with Stones and with weights. I mean, you talked about James Fuller. James lifts for the USAWA. I lift for those guys too, so it's what you call odd lifts, all the all-round lifting. You know, so I have 19 world records in that. You know, and things like the Jefferson lift and the hack lift and the one-arm deadlift and Zercher lifts, all of those kind of things. So there's all of those to do, and I've managed to get 19 under my belt. Wow. But now that I've turned 55, that's a clean sheet, you know, of the 55 plus records. You know, so for me, as well as the stone lifting, I mean, I can repeat all of the records that I've got at over 50. I can get them all in the over 55. I kind of go between, in kilos, it's sort of 69 to 71 kilos, which is, I suppose, between 150 to 160 pounds, and that kind of, so I can shift between two weight groups. You know, so there's a ton of stuff that I can do there, you know, in terms of getting more records and chasing the stones. So for me, it's turning 55 is not like hitting the downward spiral. It's a whole new opportunity for me, you know, and it motivates me. And I think if I didn't have records to chase, or I didn't have a bigger venue to play with the band, or a heavier set of stones to lift, I think I would start, you know, acting my age and stuff, you know. But right now, I'd still want to party. I still want to hang out with my wife. I still want to take my dog for a walk, you know, and I want to lift heavy stones and play gigs. I don't think any different than I did when I was in my 20s, you know. And I don't have the same stamina for playing drums and for training that I would have had maybe when I was younger, but everything else is still the same, and in here it still feels the same.
Yeah, that's really cool. It is interesting as I'm, you know, creeping towards 40 years old in about 6 months or so, and like a buddy of mine that I train martial arts with, he just turned 24.
Right.
And I have a daughter that's 20. So
wow.
It's kind of weird to like look at him, and yeah, he's my friend. We train together, but yeah. When I look at him, I don't feel like I look a lot older than him. I don't feel like I'm a lot older than him. But it's like my daughter is almost his age. So it's yeah. Like I kind of wonder, what do I look like to him? Do I look a lot? Like when he looks at me, does he see like this old guy, or like what does what do I?
Well, I think, I mean, your age is reflected by how you conduct yourself. You know, I mean, I know that my guys tell me that I don't look 55. I certainly don't act 55, you know, and I get that. I understand that. But I mean, the whole age thing, I mean, certainly in terms of strength, okay, I'll give you an example. My father started training when he was 17, and he trained his whole life. So he has been training since he was 17, and he still does it. He didn't reach his peak for physical strength until he was 49. He did 970 on a Jefferson lift, but it was like a partial Jefferson lift. He did 938.5 pounds on the rings, on the Dinnie training rings. He loaded up to 938.5. You know, and now when he turned 49, he got a touch of high blood pressure, and the doctor then advised him to stop. You know, so he stopped. You know, but I mean, he kept getting stronger up until he was 49. You know, I mean, I've always been strong my whole life. You know, stronger than all my friends and that, but I never trained. So when I started training at 50, man, I'm still stronger now than I've ever been, and I intend to keep getting stronger. I don't think that being 55 or even maybe up to I'm 60 is going to stop me. I think so long as I keep having a goal and keep training hard, I think I'll continue to get stronger. That's the plan, anyway.
Yeah, it's good to have like people that are kind of like paving the way. They've already been where I've been. So you've already been 40. You've already been 45. And so when I'm looking and like I see these people, like like you or like Bud Jeffries, you may be aware
Yeah,
of.
oh, he's amazing. Bud Jeffries is an amazing guy. Good grief.
Yeah, I think he has about 10 years on me. I'm not for sure. And like Steve Potter, um,
Yeah.
yeah, he's 9 years older than me,
Mhm.
and I don't think he looks older than me. I don't think so. I don't know what other people might think, but he's stronger than me. He could outlift me. He's better with kettlebells. His mobility is better.
Yeah.
So I can like look at this and like, okay, if I just like keep doing like what these guys are doing, and I'm not trying to be just like anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
but as I'm developing my own way and teaching people, like, so I'm teaching martial arts, I'm teaching strength training, and what I'm trying to like teach is like how to um, like get better with age and not have like so many injuries
Yeah.
that that when somebody gets 50, oh well, they're really in bad shape. They used to be really strong and they used to squat so much and they used to. I'd rather them get 50 and be like, oh, when I can do this now, and I couldn't do that at 45, or I couldn't do that at 40, but now I'm 55. Now I can do that. Now I can do the
Yeah.
whatever lift. Or so it's cool to have people ahead of me on the path to.
Well, it shows you that it's possible, I think,
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Bud Jeffries, I mean, he's a great example. My goodness, what I love about Bud is how unorthodox he is in his training. I mean, he'll set a kettlebell on fire and he starts spinning it, and he'll throw an axe behind his back when he's juggling kettlebells, and he'll hit the target as well. I mean, he's unbelievable. Guys like him really inspire me.
Yeah.
Really do.
Yeah, he's cool. He does a lot of neat stuff, and definitely one that's been on my radar for a long time. And so I think we're nearing about an hour here. I could talk to you about this stuff all day long, but we can start to wrap it up. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you were wanting to mention? Or?
I think one of the things that you picked up on was my post recently that I put up about being ill.
Yeah, the hospital.
I think to give you a bit of background on that and kind of to pick up on what you're saying about teaching people. I think one of the things when I teach drums a lot, and I mean, obviously people are coming to me advice on looking at advice now on the Dinnie Stones, and you can teach people the practical stuff. You can teach them all about how to count to 4 and how about rhythm, how rhythm's made up and stuff. One of the things I like to teach people as well is how to conduct themselves. As a musician, there's more to it than just turn up and playing your drums. If you're going to be booked for a gig, turn up early. Make sure your gear's in good condition, it sounds good. If there's a problem, look for a solution. Don't complain about a problem, look for solutions. Teaching people the positive thing and to present yourself professionally, because a lot of people talk about being professional, and it's easy to be professional if things are going well. But whenever life's hard or times are tough or the audience aren't on your side, that's when a true professional, I think, then, shines above the rest. If you're having a tough time on stage, make it look like you're having the best time in the world. And the audience pick up on that. You can turn things around with that. And I think it's the same with lifting weights. I seen a post recently, it was on my Instagram account, and I'm not going into the detail of it, but I just thought it was very, very disrespectful, the other lifters. There was a lot of negative stuff that these guys were saying, and I really wanted to go and kind of put them straight. And I thought, I can do that. There was about maybe 4 people looked at the post, and I don't know how many's on my Instagram, a couple of thousand, I'm sure. Or I can go and post something negative and just continue what they're doing, and a couple of thousand people are going to see that, and it gives them a platform. So I decided to put up a nice positive post about what happened to me quite a while ago. And if I had gone the direction of putting a negative comment on and trying to put these guys in their place, I think people would have seen that. Maybe a couple of people would have seen that, and it would have been a very unpleasant exchange. But when I did the other post, I mean, I think there's 850 likes on it, 300 or 400 comments of people getting something positive out of it. So I chose to go down that route. And I generally try to do that. You know, if there's a negative situation, where can you find the positive in that, you know? And I suppose, I mean, to kind of give a background on the story, a number of years ago, I contracted a condition known as Guillain-Barré syndrome. And it attacks your peripheral nervous system. It strips the myelin sheath off. So all of the signals are going there, but they aren't reaching, you know, their extremities, your hands. You don't have any feeling. You have absolutely no strength, and you couldn't squeeze a toothpaste. You can't blink. Your involuntary muscles start to shut down. It's really nasty. I mean, I was completely paralyzed with this. And I was in the hospital, and the doctors had told me, well, you're going to be minimum 3 years in a wheelchair. You know, with rehab, we might get you back on your feet again, but there's no guarantees with this, you know. And it's doctors, you know, when you're in that position, you listen to doctors, you know, because they're professionals, and you say, okay, that's fine. And I think in your mind, you try and find a way. Well, how am I going to? If this is the me of now, how am I going to deal with this? So you start to think about your life, you know, in that condition, and what you can do, not what you can't do, but what you can do with it. And one of the things about it is, because it's your peripheral nervous system, it kind of comes from your spine and goes out to your extremities. And so I was in an awful amount of pain, and I couldn't breathe, you know, because my lungs were starting to shut down and stuff, and I couldn't see because my focal muscles wouldn't work on my eyes. So I was feeling a wee bit sorry for myself that night, you know, and I couldn't stop sitting up. And it was a relief nurse, they call them bank nurses over here. She was just in to cover a shift. And she came over and asked me what was wrong with me. And I remember thinking at the time, that's strange. Why would a nurse not know what was wrong with me? Sure, it's on my chart, you know. She would get a briefing of the patients in the ward. So I just at the time think that would be a bit strange. But I told her what was wrong, what the doctors had said, and, you know, I'm going to be here for a while, and maybe 3 years, and, you know, we'll see what happens, kind of thing. She said, well, I'm from Manchester in England, and there was a fella in one of my shifts had that, and he got over it in 3 months. Well, it was like, God, it was like, do you know when you see like a firework going off, you know, and all the balloons bursting and like people popping champagne? That's kind of was like in my head at the time, because she was the first person that gave me any hope, you know. And I mean, I understand why doctors don't give you hope, because if they say, well, you might get over in a week or two, and you don't, you might come back and say, well, you told me I was going to, you know. So I understand why they say that, but this nurse just gave me if she had given me £1 million, it wouldn't have meant as much to me, you know. And there was a chap in the bed facing me. He had motor neuron in the ward, and he had a wheelchair, his own wheelchair. So I used to steal his wheelchair and go for rounds, you know, and stuff. Anything I could do to make myself stronger, because I knew then that I could get over this. Now, but talking about playing in the Queen band, we had just been offered our very first gig for the Queen fan club. I got sick in January. The gig was in April of that year. And when Jackie phoned me about it, I was perfectly healthy, you know, so we took the gig, and it was very exciting for us. So it was literally 3 months down the line from I contracted this condition, and I played the gig. You know, I wasn't very strong. I was still very weak. I only 770. I weighed under 100 pounds, I suppose, at it. You know, so I was very weak, but I was on the upward path, and it was just from that wee nurse. And I honestly think she was an angel. She was sent to me just to give me that wee bit of hope. And I mean, all you need sometimes is a bit of hope, you know. And I mean, ever since then, I don't sweat the small chip, you know. And things like those guys saying that stuff, you know, it's like, man, I don't care. It doesn't affect me, you know. But here, have this. Here's something positive, you know, that you can take from a really negative story. So I always try and turn negatives into positives, you know. I mean, I'm not a superhero, but I mean, I don't let things beat me, you know. And I certainly didn't let that beat me. And I'm very glad in some ways that I experienced it, because I can give people hope, you know, who might be in a similar position. And some of the posts that I got as a result of putting it on, I mean, a fellow lost his father through it. And he said, you know, I got a good feeling knowing that you came through this, you know, and other people who have just maybe contracted it, they can see that there is hope. So that alone was worth doing that wee post, you know, and it turned a very negative potentially thing into a very positive thing. So I'm very happy to be able to do that if I can.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of good points there. Yeah, that's pretty amazing to be like sent with, you know, like given this like sentence of like a physical despair. Like Like
Oh yeah.
this is going to be horrible for you for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And somebody just come along and say, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's it. That's all I needed. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then, so I would wonder if she didn't do that, would you have just went the other way where, yeah, this is going to suck for a really long time, maybe forever. So
It's very hard to say. It's when people tell you stuff like that, Ryan, it's you kind of believe because it's a medical profession, as mentioned earlier on. But I've always been a positive person. Always chased goals and stuff. I just really chase them. So I do. And I don't. Because to have a second chance at life, and a good quality of life is an amazing thing to be given. It's a real gift. And I mean, I've managed to been in the presence of Bill Kazmaier. I mean, I competed at the Arnold's in 2017, and that was the most incredible experience. And I competed head to head against Mark Felix and Bill Crawford and Old Haugen. A little guy like me from Belfast. And that's just because I've just taken the bull by the horns and just, I shouldn't be lifting 770 is my best. I shouldn't be lifting 770. But it's like Bill Kazmaier said, it's only heavy if you think it is. And he's right, and he says things like, conceive, believe and achieve. I get that, conceive, think what your goal is, then to just go and do it, and you will, you've got to believe in yourself. I do think you've got to believe, and the power of the mind's an amazing thing. It really does what it can do. We've seen people overcome things where they shouldn't be able to walk, and their body finds a way because they believe they can. You see stories like that all the time, and that's the sort of stuff that motivates people. And hopefully my story, by taking that line on Facebook, I don't mention it very often to folk, but I think if the situation's right, and people need to hear it, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I can believe it. She was really an angel. Also, I believe that I've met.
And I do believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that I've met an angel, and and that's why I quit drinking and smoking weed and stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't really have anything against drinking or smoking weed. It's not like I think it's morally wrong or maybe even bad. I don't even know if it's really even bad for you. I think it can be. Certainly, it can be, but not. I don't think it's just so cut and dry. I think maybe having a little drink and a little smoke or whatever could be good for you in different ways. But it wasn't, and it was through meeting and knowing this person. And once I quit, literally the day I quit was the last day I ever heard from her. And
really?
I used to drive a cab, and I started picking her up and taking her to work. I would take her to and from work almost every day, for at least a couple months or so, a few months. And we would always talk about spiritual stuff, and she seems to know everything.
Yeah.
And
that's very cool.
Yeah, and she didn't tell me I should quit drinking or smoking. She didn't tell me anything like that. She just seemed to kind of know everything, but in a very easygoing way. She wasn't preachy and she was like her earth story, as I call it, because I believe more like she was an angel. But she was from India, and just perfect, just perfect. And then the day I decided I'm going to have my last beer and my last bit of smoke, the last day I ever heard from her.
Wow. Yeah, well, obviously her work was done at that point, yeah. I'd never taken drugs. I mean, even when I was young, I smoked a bit of weed when I was 18, but I didn't like it. And I mean, I've been playing in a rock and roll band for damn near 40 years, but it's just that side of life, it actually scares me a wee bit. So I've always stayed away from it. But I mean, I enjoy a drink. I think things in moderation. If you get balance in your life, you're partying, you're having a drink, your time with your wife, your time with your family, your time with your friends, your time in the gym, your time at work. If you can balance that, you're going to be in a good place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I can believe it, and I hope that other people can at least be open to that idea too. That maybe that person that said that little thing to you at the grocery store or at the hospital or somebody just kind of pops into your life for just a moment and they're gone.
Yeah.
Maybe they were from like a different world, and this, so, or also like makes this world, like maybe the line between this world and the next is, it has like cracks between the two.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
it's the same kind of thing. So that's a really cool story that you have, and
Thank you.
yeah, you have a bunch of cool stories in your life.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, it was really cool. So do you have like any other final thoughts before I let you go, or?
No, I think, I mean, if anybody's listening to this and they want to get involved in stone lifting, or they want to take the Dinnie Stones on, or, you know, anything at all, I'm very, very easy to contact me. Obviously through my Facebook, is my Dinnie Stone website is thedinniestones.com, so it's very easy. You know, anything at all. I mean, I'm always happy to help people, particularly if they're looking information or training methods. I mean, I have a way that I train, but that's what works for me, and I'll pass that on. But I mean, we're all different. We're made different. You know, there's different things for it. But I mean, I'm very happy to pass on what I have to anybody that wants to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. And so, yeah, I guess we will leave it at that. And I will turn off the recording. And thanks again for being on the show. That was really cool. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, and then reading your hospital story was like, okay, now I'm sending the message now. Like before, maybe I wouldn't have known. So I meant to ask you about it earlier, but and I'm glad you reminded me, because that was something I was definitely wanting to get into. So it's like, okay, that now I'm sending the message now, not tomorrow, not. I read that. I'm sending him the message right now.
Well, I appreciate you contacting me, Brian. I really do. And thank you for having me on your show.
All right, very cool. Well, I will stop the recording, and I'll talk to you for just a second after I hit the stop.
Okay, cool.